welcome back to my channel. If I sound a little bit stuffy, my nose has started acting up. It's about the second time I tried recording this and it just keeps coming back. So today's topic was brought to you by Karo, I think it's Karo, from my Twitter. I've been mostly using my Twitter a lot more, so if you want to recommend stuff that way or you want to talk, there's that. I'll put it somewhere on screen. But since there's no community here, I'm just kind of working off my Twitter. You can just follow me there and also try to subscribe to this because I'll try to put as much content as I can with the time I have working on my last book and trying to get the first one on the publishing route. So she brought up a good idea for content would be talking about self-esteem and how I do self-esteem with my work and talk about self-esteem in general. So here we go. Self-esteem, when it comes to me and my writing, sadly is very difficult to talk about because we all have different approaches to self-esteem. Like, we all have what makes us happy, what drives us passion-wise or even goal-wise. But with self-esteem, we always have that thing of just self-doubt in the back of our heads. And I guess this would be a really good way to talk about the self-doubt and self-esteem that a lot of writers have and how toxic it is, especially in the writing community and AuthorTube, BookTube, about how to do our writing. So one thing is that I've noticed for a long time is we all kind of hate writing for some reason. Like, if we write, it's kind of like we're pushing ourselves to the limit, and a lot of that comes from the community being like, if you're not putting out 1,000 words, a day, or doing, X amount of words a month, then you're not really a writer. You're just, you're below average type writer. One of the ones that do the fan fictions or talk about smut or, like small stuff. And it does hurt self-esteem a bit to hear that from like bigger channels, bigger people. And, I don't recommend that at all. If you are going to write something and you're struggling at it at all, best way to describe it is you just gotta take your time with it. It's never gonna be done if you rush it. And especially if you rush it, you're going to run into multiple problems along the way, because by rushing it, you're not flushing it out, you're not really focused on it, you're just going from point A to point B and hoping it's done. I don't recommend that at all. It took me, at least 2 years to finish Flux, and then Relativity took 1 year because while I was working on Flux, I was working on Relativity and Velocity to make sure that I can get all the points across when I got to the end. And then with Velocity, it's taken me about, again, almost a whole year, and I'm almost done. And this is only them being in their first draft. I, again, took a break from Relativity until I can get Flux published. Flux is on its last draft. It just needs to get cleaned up, and then I can send it off to a publisher, and then we'd be good. Or even self-publish. I haven't fully decided on that boat yet, just when the time comes. So when it comes down to just working on it, you gotta space yourself out a bit, because if you burn out, the idea can get burned out. So a lot of times when it comes to me writing, I look at, especially from what I hear from people, you can either do an outline or wing it, from what I know. And I heavily am against just winging it, because I've done that for years and it's never worked out. So the thing is when you have an outline, you always have like a floor plan you can follow. So even though you're putting in the long hours to get this book done, or you're just like writing a sentence and getting completely writer's block on what you should do in this chapter, just take a break, relax. I usually recommend about a week. Just walk away from it for about a week. Work on another project. A lot of people, and that's another thing that drives me insane. A lot of people will not do something else and only focus on that particular book. Don't do that. You got to keep your, you got to keep your options opened, because you'll always have that option where if you do finish that book and it's not great, you might end up shelving it for a while, and you have to be able to adjust to that idea. So there's for me, I always have like a bunch of projects on hold right now because I'm mostly focused on just getting that whole Flux trilogy done. But when I get burned out on it, I flip over to another one. Like I flipped over to Fantasy War to get that going, but because of the problems I've been facing with it, I've shelved it until I can figure it out. I've jumped to a couple other ideas, like worked out a couple more outlines for other stuff I can do. But nevertheless, you just have to kind of balance yourself out when it comes to the working stress and all that. Now, I know I haven't really talked about the self-esteem or the self-doubt, but this is that part of it. Because if you work yourself hard enough, you're going to start to doubt your work, or you might doubt yourself and your writing technique, or you'll doubt what you're doing. And I had that for a long time. And the only way I overcame it was by basically telling myself that it will get done. And I was told, basically I had my epiphany moment when I was told by Ernest Clyde, because he was promoting Ready Player One at the time, and I went to a book signing of his. I'm like, how'd you do this with your family and all that? He's like, just focus on your family first, and the book can come later. Just make sure you can get yourself stable, and then everything else will start falling in place. So instead of stressing out over the book constantly, he kind of taught me, focus on what's really important, like food, water, job, like that stuff. And then you can basically focus on getting your work published and getting it out there. So you have to at least take some type of a break and realize that the harder you push yourself, the more dangerous it's going to be for you. You need to take a break and enjoy the little things in life. Say you don't have any friends and you don't go out often. Do something you haven't done in a while. Like, I don't know. Go out, go to the mall, go check out places. Like, do something where you're not in the same pattern. If you're just doing the writing stuff. If you do have a job does kind of help break you from doing it constantly. Just find ways to break the mold and do something else, because the more you focus on it, the more intense your thoughts are going to be towards it, and it'll start to grow the self-doubt a bit. This is what I've come to realize. So I usually dabble in other stuff to keep my mind busy. So for years, with my self-esteem when it came to writing, has always been very judgmental, that if I don't finish something by my 26th birthday, I'm 25 now, that I'm not going to survive as a creative person or a writer or anything among the likes of it. And how I've approached the situation has been mixed. It does kind of fuel my depression a bit that I can't seem to get progress in a field that I love, and I do fear the whole work the 9 to 5 and be nobody attitude. But if you feel that way, don't just immediately give up. Keep fighting. And I know there's people out there that sit there and go, well, you're just not talented enough, you shouldn't even try, just give up or try something else. No, if you are really passionate about writing, fucking do it. Best way to describe it. If someone's telling you you're not good at something, but you love doing it, fucking do it. Okay? Because the best way to describe is you're going to have your ups and downs, but you don't just fall off your bike and then call it a day. No, you get yourself back up and you keep going. You keep trying to learn how to ride a bike. Riding might be complicated because of how many techniques and skills and what rules work and all that go on. That's fine. You will get better at learning techniques, learning the rules, learning mechanics that work in a story. It takes time. It's not like you're going to make a bestseller overnight. Everybody's a bestseller. Sorry. The thing is that you need to focus on when it comes to your writing is, and I've always said, your characters have to come first before the setting and the plot. The plot is absolute bullshit, and you know it because everybody has told the story before. We've always had the hero's tale. We've always had the fish out of the water story. There's a list of like story mechanics that people use that exist because a story is so easy to tell. The thing that makes your story different is the setting and the characters. Prime example of this is I put in Flux, I have two sides, Free Folk and the United Nations of Earth. Why did I do that? Because it's two different ideas living in the universe. I have my characters in a situation where both sides have been fighting for such a long time over control of the universe that they're both at a Cold War. Now, I have the plot. All that happens is our main character finds something that would expose that one side is still dealing with the option of probably going back to war. There you go. I figured it out. And that's how I have the plot going. The characters are what tells the story. Most of the characters in Flux are somewhat relatable. Somewhat. Give or take a few of them. But mostly I have like Kepler being a washed up war veteran. Kind of put him as a war veteran because of just how I want him to be. I want him to have been through a horrible experience in war to the point where, you know, he's honored and medaled and all that, but he just doesn't give a crap about fighting anymore because it's too much of a loss for him. And gets roped into this situation and kind of has to realize, even though he doesn't want to fight for a cause, he has to fight because who else will? That's kind of the approach I've done. Now, after saying this, it sounds probably stupid to about 80% of people, right? I strongly believe in my story. And a lot of people have self-doubt about their stories, and they feel, well, that doesn't sound good, or they tell someone, and someone that doesn't like that type of story immediately goes, well, that doesn't sound good. You have to approach your story with the belief that your story will work. It doesn't matter how shitty it sounds. It doesn't matter how contrived it is. You have to believe that it will work. For you to believe in yourself and your self-esteem. That's just how it is. That's how I was able to manage getting out Flux, Relativity, and almost Velocity completely done. Is I believe that it's a good sci-fi story. Not a great one, not a masterpiece, but a good one that people might actually enjoy. My end game with it is just having a community to talk about the books with. Have people, make fanfics about the books. Worst case scenario would be nobody reads it, and I've published a book. I have something under my belt so I can continue writing, because I'm not going to stop writing. I don't know what to do if I stop writing or being creative. So, I hope I got the point across. I'm not really good with talking about stuff like this, but at the same time, this is not scripted, and it's just me kind of ranting, I guess. Again, follow me on my Twitter. Special thanks to Caro on Twitter for the question or the topic idea. Of course, tweet that to her. Nevertheless, guys, thank you for joining the channel. Please hit the like button shows me if you guys like the idea. Also, the subscribe button to stay in contact with my content, because you know YouTube's just great about telling people about content. Also, if you have any topic ideas, put them in the comments below or tweet at me. I know I haven't really sounded like I'm doing a-okay today. I mean, I feel kind of like I'm under the weather a bit, but yeah, I will probably pump out a few more episodes later on. The only main problem I have with doing YouTube videos besides editing is basically the internet I have here is dog shit. It takes about 3 days, literally 3 days, for me to send a video up because of the data stream and the data cap. So I'll see you guys in the next video.